Hello everyone, I'm Grandmaster Denes Boros, and I'm going to talk about the legends of the Levenfish. As you might have known, the Levenfish has impressed and inspired many of us. It featured in the Queen's Gambit, but it also features in the biography of world champions and legends all the same. Today, this game we're going to look at is Mikhail Tal's famous game versus Levenfish. By the way, what's interesting is that this has been played by three big female champions, namely Alexandra Kostenyuk, became a women's world champion, the second strongest female player of all time, Ho Yifan from China, and of course, who could forget Judit Polgar from Hungary, who's the best player of all time, best female player of all time. So let's take a look at this game. Knight c6, just trying to stop this idea of e5. Now, here, Tal went for knight takes c6 because he is going for the quick e5 play. But interestingly enough, Judit Polgar came up with this idea of knight f3 just to support the break with e5 and had a very wild game against Veselin Topalov, who became a world champion later on. Knight takes c6 was played though in this game, b takes c6, e5, and the knight moves to d7. This is the main variation. Taking isn't that good because black would lose the right to castle. Meanwhile, white would start her attack on the queen side. King would be just stuck in the middle. So therefore, Levenfish decides to go knight d7, e takes d6, e takes d6, bishop e3, bishop e7. And here, as known from Tal, he always goes his own way. He went queen f3, but queen d2 is probably the best line, as I showed in the first Levenfish video. So queen f3 was played, but the point is that Tal is trying to gain time by attacking that pawn and scurry away castle before any danger would find the king in the middle. e5, long castles, bishop f6, just getting the dragon bishop on the long diagonal. It's actually a very good play by black. Bishop d4, immediately trying to get rid of that. Castles, h4, rook b8, queen f2, rook b4, just trying to force the exchange and put pressure on the b2 pawn. But Tal is unperturbed, takes, knight takes f6, a3, queen b6, forcing the exchange, otherwise the b2 pawn is falling. Queen b6, rook b6, knight a4, rook b7, bishop d3. Now, any other player who would play this position and the Levenfish would feel a little sad because there's no mating attack yet. But Tal was known to be very good in endgames, and he was very famous for being such a big fighter. And as you will see in this game, he'll show that even in endgames, you can show creativity. Knight h5, a nice move by black, hitting this pawn and also threatening to come on in there to the e4 square. Rook f1, rook e7, f5, takes, rook e1, rook e8, rook takes, takes. Seemingly a rather dull position. And you're also down a pawn on f5, and it doesn't feel right? It just looks bad. However, Tal here thought a bit and realized, this king on c1 isn't participating in the battle. Also, that these pawns on c6 and d5 aren't that safe after all. It's not a beautiful chain of pawns like the a, b, and c pawns. They're all defending each other. So Tal realized, if I could walk my king up to c5, I could start pressing these pawns, and I might even be able to attack the a pawn in the future. So on he goes with the journey, king d2. Here comes the king, knight g3, king c3. And this is imagination at its best. Realizing, okay, that's one of those pieces, the king, which is one of the best pieces in the endgames, didn't work at all. So it makes sense just to stroll on in and forward into Levenshin's position. f4, king d4, bishop f5, rook d2. Just making sure all the pawns are defended. Rook e6, knight c5, activating the knight. Rook h6 and king e5. Quite a strong move, as the king is threatening to break on in and pester those pawns. And from a slightly inferior position, Tal realized that he's actually getting chances as his king became a true warrior in the middle of the board. Bishop takes d3, c takes d3, rook h4, king d6. Already this king has taken a long path up there, but already it's becoming one of the strongest pieces on the whole board. Rook h6 check, king c7, going for the a pawn. And it's gonna be a big deal because in that case, the a pawn is going to make a home run right there. Knight f5, king b7. And as the rook has wandered off, there's nobody defending that a pawn. And if the a pawn starts running, the king will catch it and then start pushing the a passer. So knight d4 was played. Rook f2, making sure there's no funny business on the other side. a5, rook takes f4, hitting this knight, knight e6, check, king f8, king takes c6, again a brave move, one of staple Tal decisions. He doesn't fear anything. This looks dangerous for the uninitiated, and you feel that there could be any knight jumps, and there are many knight jumps. However, none of them work. Knight takes c5, king takes c5, rook e6, king takes d5, rook b6, b4. Always create a pass pawn, and that's exactly what Tal does. Takes, king e7, king c5, and a king that looked a little bit vulnerable when it walked up the board actually became a huge asset on c5, where it nurses this b pawn into a whole lady. Rook f6, rook d4, rook f5, king c6, cutting off the king, and also trying to barricade off this king from ever coming closer. Rook f6, king c7, rook f5, d4, king f6, king c6, coming back just to help the pawn promote. Rook f2, g4. Never give up a free pawn. You want to make sure that all of your pawns are defended. h5, boom, free pawn, we'll take that. King g5, b5, f5, rook b4. The rook belongs behind the pawn, so it can motorboat into the finish line. f4, b6, f3, b7, and here Lisitsin resigned, realizing that there's no stopping the b pawn from queening. So I really hope you enjoyed this session on this legendary game by Mikhail Tal and showed that even in difficult positions, you can find the right way to play. So if you have any thoughts, ideas, please leave a comment below. And if you like this video, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time.